proposed Front Range passenger train finally has a name, but not the money to build it. So, all aboard an idea.
Colorado is closer than we've ever been to finally getting this done.
Where gas prices are headed from here, why Colorado's been shielded from some of the pain.
So it's getting at the early stages of a crisis mode.
Striking JBS workers go back inside tomorrow without a new contract. Yet the union spins it as a win. And if there was a bragging about your grandkid Olympics, we found the gold medal winner.
Oh, I brag about her a lot, I'm afraid, yes.
That's tonight on Next. Colorado has a plan to build a passenger train line from Fort Collins down to Pueblo, and today that train got a name. More accurately, the planned train has a name. Can't ride a plan. And they still need money to pay for the train with the fancy new name. Our Mark Salinger has that.
Ladies and gentlemen, the name is Colorado Connector, or COCO. Say hello to your new passenger rail train, COCO.
The train has a name. Now it needs some money.
Colorado is closer than we've ever been to finally getting this done.
Governor Jared Polis said today that COCO will start taking passengers between Denver and Fort Collins by 2029. The rest of the line between Denver and Pueblo has a much bigger question mark surrounding it.
About a quarter to a third of a penny on every dollar transaction is what's being looked at.
Phase 1 up north already has funding. Phase 2 down south doesn't. The Front Range Passenger Rail District will need to ask taxpayers to fund it through a sales tax. Voters need to approve it. But at this point, the district isn't even saying how much it'll cost.
We'll have that all public and shared with the public in the next month or two if we refer something to the ballot.
Sal Pace is a former Colorado state rep from Pueblo and now the general manager of the rail district. He says if voters approve the tax in 2026, the full train up and down the Front Range will be running by 2032. But that's a big if, considering they haven't even decided if they'll put the sales tax initiative on the ballot this November.
I don't think the district plans on putting it on the ballot unless we think people are going to vote for it.
The plan, eventually, is for the train to stop 13 times between Fort Collins and Pueblo. It would transform how Colorado moves.
The southern corridor will take another couple of years and likely depend upon additional resources at the ballot box.
But there's still a lot of work to be done between when COCO gets a name and COCO leaves the station.
We asked multiple times today if they can give us even a ballpark number for how much it would cost to complete the rail line up and down the Front Range. We haven't gotten that answer. We were told they're still looking at options for how much to ask when it comes to that ballot initiative, Kyle.
But Mark, it's got a new name.
It's got a new name, COCO.
It's got a new name.
The plan does.
Sure. So you put a rail line there. What kind of frequency do you have?
So let's say it does get built. It'll start with potentially up to 3 trains going up and down in between Fort Collins and Denver, but eventually they want to have 10 to 15 trains running up and down the state every day because they say that the more trains, the more times that you have people moving through, the better it is, more people will take it.
Sure, you don't necessarily want to go to Trinidad on a Tuesday and come back on
spend the
Friday.
night and come back, yeah.
Exactly.
Sure.
All right, Mark Salinger, thank you. Colorado state legislators have known for months that their budget is $1.5 billion short, and this week it's nut-cutting time down at the ranch. The Joint Budget Committee warns it will be painful, and well, we would assume as much, right? Largest cuts are to Medicaid. That's the biggest portion of state spending. Current proposal is a 2% cut to the reimbursements for most Medicaid providers, caps on some disability services, and new limits on the state's Medicaid equivalent program for pregnant women and kids who don't have permanent legal residency. Under this budget proposal, state employees would no longer get an expected 3% cost of living increase, and state colleges could increase tuition up to 5%. House starts debating this budget Wednesday, then it goes to the Senate. And these cuts are not the end of the process. The state budget is still on track to grow even next year. Republicans say that's proof the Democrats have been spending too much. Democrats point to Republican tax bills out of Washington, which have changed revenue collection at the state level. They've also called for changes to the state's Taxpayer Bill of Rights, which caps tax revenue. Can the local TV news cover gas prices without using the phrase pain at the pump? I don't know, because I just did. Could not stop myself. Yet something is stopping Coloradans from paying the record gas prices seen in other states. Our Angeline McCall explains.
Prices at the pump have gone up. So have President Trump's threats.
The entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night.
Economists and supply chain experts say in the midst of this conflict, gas prices still aren't at their highest, neither is oil.
So it's getting at the early stages of a crisis mode.
Professor Jack Buffington with the University of Denver says while prices have gone up, Colorado hasn't felt the pain as much as other places, despite a more than $1 increase per gallon at the pump.
The benefit that Coloradans have is, number one, we have a large refinery that's right in town.
Because Colorado has been more insulated, we've been paying prices that reflect more of an $80 per barrel for oil price, not what it's currently at, trading at around $114 per barrel. We could see the prices catch up at the pump in a matter of weeks.
So instead of paying like $3.70 or $3.80, you could be paying up to $4.40, $4.50, something like that.
MSU Denver economics professor Kishore Kulkarni says pressure points could alleviate or tighten within a matter of days.
We are at a very important juncture right now because tonight is the deadline for U.S. to do something in Iran.
Even if there is a deal reached, prices won't drop overnight.
Its supply worldwide or even at the U.S. level is very important to be watched and to stabilize.
Between rising costs, threats, and ticking deadlines, it's hard to predict exactly what happens next, other than increased strain on the wallet for months to come.
I think it's unrealistic to expect that we're not going to see inflation that's going to extend throughout the summer.
Even if the conflict ends tomorrow, experts say oil infrastructure and fields have been wiped out due to the conflict. It could take months to rebuild those, meaning cascading impacts on prices long after some kind of resolution, even if we see one in the coming days or weeks. Kyle?
Interesting. I feel like we have not seen airline ticket prices go up at the same steep way that we've seen gas prices go up.
No, certainly not. Even though we've seen jet fuel increase, and we know that's been the case, I've seen warnings from, air traffic experts saying that at some point we're going to see those rise. We'll also see impacts on food and other systems as well. And so impacts are not just to gas or what we're paying at the pump, even though I think that's what we feel the most.
Ashley McCall, thank you. President Trump's new Homeland Security Secretary went on Fox News today and suggested pulling customs officers out of airports in so-called sanctuary cities that aren't helping the feds with deportations. If those officers were to be removed in Denver, that would mean that international travelers could no longer fly into Denver International Airport. This is just an idea, according to DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen. At that point, I suppose we wouldn't be able to call it DIA. And then, of course, the airport for years has been trying to get us to call it DEN. That's still not happening. If the Trump administration takes the I out of DIA, we're going with DA, which is dumb. But dumb ideas are not illegal. Union workers at the JBS meatpacking plant in Greeley are back at work tomorrow. Still don't have a new contract. Yet the union's trying to tell those workers and all of us that it's a win. Around 3,800 workers went on strike 3 weeks ago. They want higher pay and better safety on the job. JBS, which is the biggest meat processor in the world, just shifted production out of Greeley to other plants. Over the weekend, JBS announced the union was ending the strike, and the union told us today it will meet with JBS on Thursday and Friday to resume negotiations. The union president says this is a win for workers, but employees we talked to said it felt like they were giving up without getting anything.
In disbelief, like what were the last 3 weeks for, I'm really confused. I'm kind of disappointed more so than angry.
The workers won. I mean, this is a great thing that we're going back to the table. I mean, we didn't have bargaining scheduled, the week before the strike or during the last 3 weeks.
They're going back to the table, and according to JBS, they're going to be staring at the exact same deal, which was already given to plant workers across the country, the deal that has previously been rejected by the union in Greeley. Another strike we're watching is in the small Sheridan School District in Arapahoe County. They're going to reopen all 5 school buildings tomorrow as the teachers continue their walkout. Nearly 100 teachers and other school employees went on strike last Wednesday. That led the district to cancel all schools for 3 days last week. District says it brought in enough staff to open every school except Sheridan High School today. Tomorrow, high school will be open as well. Teachers in Sheridan have been working without a contract since August. They want better pay, improved working conditions, and better communication from the district. Union met with the district on Saturday to continue their talks. One of the best things about gathering with you here each weeknight is how when we talk about a problem in our community, we can also become part of the solution in a very real way. Take Denver City Park Bandstand. So burned down a couple of weeks ago. That near 100-year-old landmark is the center of so many community celebrations like Jazz in the Park. Well, since last week, you all have raised about $70,000 to rebuild it. More than $30,000 in one-time donations, and our monthly donors to the Word of Thanks Fund will add another $40,000 or so. This is on top of other community efforts by other groups. I say when it's rebuilt, stop by, go to Jazz in the Park. Appreciate what you and so many others in this community have made possible. $70,000 in 1 week. You've raised $18 million that way by pooling your $5 donations for more than 300 weeks now. This will keep going. We will find a way to keep this going. So keep telling me about the nonprofit causes in Colorado that matter to you and your neighbors. Email next@9news.com or text next 303-871-1491. Aurora is likely to wake up to new water restrictions come morning. Oh, and your grandkid got straight A's? Well, congratulations to her. But this woman's grandkid just got back from the Olympics, and you better believe she is showing her off all over the Senior Living Center. That's next. Aurorans, a word that is hard to say. Aurorans will likely wake up to new water restrictions tomorrow. City Council there is expected to declare a water shortage tonight, and that would lead to cuts for both residential users and big business users. Aurora Water is recommending city leaders go to what are called Stage 1 drought restrictions and do it nearly a month earlier than the city typically enacts seasonal watering restrictions. Aurora's reservoirs are at 68%, and this year's garbage snowpack means that spring runoff is not going to be very helpful. So if council approves the restrictions tonight, both residential and large water users will have to cut their outdoor watering back to 2 assigned days per week, and people won't be able to fill up any backyard pools. Aurora Water's warning they're not messing around this year with enforcement. They say they have new meter technology that'll help them track in real time if people are cheating. They say if people are watering outside the allotted days and times, they could be fined up to $500. If you're thinking that a little dusting of fresh powder would be enough to save ski season over the weekend, no. Another wave of ski resorts shuttered over the weekend, more on the way this week. Across the state, the historically low snowpack and the warm temperatures have forced ski areas to close earlier than usual. At least 7 places finished their seasons over the weekend. That includes Steamboat, Telluride, Keystone, and Crested Butte. Vail says it'll close for the season on Wednesday, despite the foot of snow that they got last week. That's 18 ski areas that have already closed or announced an impending closure as of this week. But here comes meteorologist Chris Bianchi talking about something called a super El Nino. Not a help for this year, but what are we talking about for next year?
It could be a reason for cautious optimism for next winter. Now, the big impacts from this would be next winter. So you got a giant map behind me and you're going, what is on the screen right now? Well, the only thing we care about is this dark red blob in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. That is an indication from the latest computer forecast models that we could be talking about an historically strong El Nino for this upcoming fall and winter. And when you get really strong El Ninos, there's a pretty decent correlation in the last 4 events between above average snowpack in the mountains, especially the southern mountains, and in Denver, above average snowfall as well. Now, this is not a guarantee. Not all El Ninos are the same. Some are stronger on the western side of the Pacific Ocean. Others are stronger on the eastern side. So point being, don't take that with a grain of salt, that saying that Bianchi said it's going to snow a ton this winter. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I'm cautiously optimistic. It's a reason for optimism. And honestly, it can't possibly be worse than what we just saw. Radar right now, a few rain showers and snow showers in our far southern mountains. Hardly any of that's reaching the ground. We're going to have a better chance for seeing a few more of those rain and snow showers in the southern mountains for tomorrow. And Denver could see an isolated gusty shower, especially south of Denver, between 3 and 7 p.m. tomorrow. That'll lead to mostly just gusty winds tomorrow. But a better chance for rain later on in the week, especially Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We're going to get quite a bit of Pacific and Gulf moisture working its way into Colorado, so that should lead to at least some more decent rain chances for the end of the week and next weekend, and likely into early next week as well. A bit more of an unsettled look to the weather pattern, with temperatures topping out in the 60s and 70s through the weekend.
Grandparents are passing around wallet-sized photos to brag on their grandkids. Then this one woman in Golden brings in her Olympian granddaughter. All right, lady, you win. Do you like this show? I mean, I like this show. I like this show so much I work on it. You can catch this show streaming each weeknight, 6 p.m. on 9 News Plus, and next is a podcast wherever you find those. Just about every senior living resident loves when family visit. When an Olympic athlete swung by Golden Pond Senior Living in Golden today, total strangers came out to meet the visitor. Freestyle mogul skier Tess Johnson.
Hi everyone, my name is Tess Johnson.
It was a packed room at the Golden Pond Senior
Thank
Living.
you. Yeah, I'm a two-time Olympian.
All here for the story of this 25-year-old from Vail.
I am a freestyle mogul skier.
But she's not here to brag.
I am the current world rank number 3.
She's here because of that lady in the front row.
But most importantly, I am the granddaughter of Miss Kathy Frangos.
After the Winter Olympics, Tess Johnson competed for almost another month and just recently came home to Colorado. She's sharing home videos and pictures of how it all started. One of her first public appearances, visiting her grandma in her new home.
Nana has always meant so much to me, and even more so now because your legacy has made such an impact.
Oh, I brag about her a lot, I'm afraid, yes.
All those years of wisdom sitting in this room. How could someone so young enlighten this group?
More so than anything, I think just share the experience of the Olympic spirit. The Olympics are so special because the whole world watches, and the whole world watches those experiences and feels something. To talk about that after the fact is really special and really empowering, no matter where you are at in your life or how old you are.
Nana knows all this success is not so surprising.
Tess was always trying to be the best.
The thing I'm most grateful for, connecting with all of you through my Nana. So thank you so much, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Very sweet. I want to tell you that Fred Brown has died, giant in political journalism in our state. Decades at the state capitol, then years here at 9 News as our political analyst, breaking down the how and the why behind the political headlines of the day. His life was spent in the service of your right to know what your government was doing. Fred died last week after a stroke in March. He spent 39 years as a political reporter and columnist at the Denver Post. During that time, he earned the nickname Ethical Fred. When a new law required lobbyists to disclose their spending in 1973, Fred Brown reported that the Colorado liquor distributors were paying $140 a month to stock the fridge in the Capitol press room with beer. You can imagine the other journalists did not love Fred blowing the lid off of that arrangement. After his retirement, he worked as a media ethics instructor at DU, and up until just recently, he was still on the board of the Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition, defending transparency in government and the public's right to know. Back with your feedback next. You people saved up some feedback while I was away. Bill in Aurora writes, what a perfect way to say time for the legislature to cut the bull, with the reference to nut cutting time down at the ranch. Tom in Larkspur wrote, loved nut cutting time down at the ranch. Well, Tom, that would suggest that you had a bit of physical distance from the actual event itself, but I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Cade from Arvada writes in to say, hey, Kyle, digging the sport coat. Is it new, or when was the last time you wore it? No, this guy's somewhat of a frequent flyer over the years. Let's check the pocket card. Last wore it in March of 2025. It has been a minute. Here we've got a note from Ken, who says Front Range Rail will follow the California high-speed rail project. It will go nowhere. That project in California has been a cock-up. We're going to have to be watching to make sure that this same one doesn't turn into that type of situation. Dennis says the beard looks dignified and professional. Dennis, your check is in the mail. We'll see you next time.